I'm going to talk to you this morning about relationships and how you revitalize a brand with relationships, but I'm going to take a different twist than you might expect. I'm not going to talk about social media or connecting with the cats directly, but I'm going to talk about the real human side of relationships, the authentic conversations that yield to high-performance teams and high-performance connections with your customers. So Popeyes' story is this. In the last 5 years, we've done a major transformation of the brand and its performance. Today, it's leading the quick service restaurant industry in sales growth, in guest experience improvement, in profitability to the owners of Popeyes, and we're building more restaurants than anybody but McDonald's. So we have a story to tell, but it's all about relationships. I want to start with introducing the most important relationships in my life, the Popeyes leadership team. The reason I show you them this morning is that if they weren't back home today dealing with Hurricane Sandy, I wouldn't be here. One of the most complicated things to do is to get your restaurants open after a hurricane. Popeyes, being from the Gulf Coast region, knows this drill better than anybody, and we plan to be the first restaurants open to serve the first responders and the families affected by power outages. So as Rick just said, we're thinking of the people dealing with that challenge today, and we're grateful to those that are working to help them. A little bit of history about this brand in case you weren't from Louisiana or didn't marry someone from Louisiana. Let's take a brief look at our history, this short little 3-minute segment. We like to say we're 40 years young. We did celebrate our 40th anniversary this spring in New Orleans, as we should, and spent that time thinking all about the next 40 years. As I mentioned to you, the resurgence of this brand is a fairly recent phenomenon. In 2008, we came together and came up with a plan we call a roadmap to get this brand ready for the next 40 years. It all hinged on relationships. And I know because you're here for a loyalty conference that you share my passion for genuine, authentic, heartfelt relationships. In business, I don't think there's anything more important than choosing who your primary relationship is, the relationship that will drive your success in business. At our home office, we have the choice of a lot of important relationships that we could choose. Our guest, of course, our primary person who's paying for our product and coming to our restaurants, our employees who serve our guests, our shareholders who buy our stock, our vendors who work with us day in, day out. But as you can see by the center in orange, we've chosen to make our #1 relationship with our franchisees. Those are the people who own our restaurants. We have invested our time and our money in building a partnership with our restaurant owners so that they can deliver to all these other constituents a fabulous Popeyes experience. Now, to talk about relationships, the dictionary says it this way. They say a relationship's the state of affairs between two parties, and it might have some emotion attached to it. If you're in any kind of relationship, you probably know all about that. It's certainly true with franchisees. Franchisees invested their money, mortgaged their house, or borrowed a big chunk from the bank to get into the business. They've put their heart and soul and all their finances into building Popeyes restaurants. So they are, in fact, our most important customer. They sign a 20-year contract to be a Popeyes franchisee, and our relationships last longer than most marriages in the United States. This picture is a photo of our relationships happening live at the New Orleans Jazz Fest this spring. So what does that look like? Our relationship has roles and responsibilities. The franchisor, that's the corporate entity, has a certain role in the partnership, and the franchisee has a certain role as well. The franchisor provides this distinctive, relevant brand called Popeyes and its menu and its marketing. And the franchisee has to deliver on that promise for the guest, bringing it to life in the restaurants with POP and good service from the employees. They make it happen. They make the promise happen for the guest. The franchisor provides an operating system, the equipment, the procedures, the training, the manuals, so the franchisee can run a great restaurant. But the franchisee hires all the people, trains them, develops them, and prepares them to deliver. The franchisor should provide something that returns a good return to the investor, has proven economics, a P&L that works. The franchisee, on the other end, has to make the P&L work day in and day out by controlling costs and scheduling labor efficiently. And if all those things work together in our partnership, there will be growth opportunities pointed out by the franchisor that the franchisee will be excited to pursue and invest more of their hard-earned money in building new restaurants. So that's kind of how the relationship works. Here's a little bit about what we've done together over the last 5 years. We came together and built, I guess you'd call it a strategic plan. We called it a roadmap for results. We chose the things that we thought would set us apart from other ordinary restaurant chains and make us successful. When we started, it had 4 columns. Today, it has 5. The first 4 columns are what we called the essence of running a hot, growing restaurant chain. You had to have a distinctive and relevant brand that invited the guest into the restaurant. You had to run the restaurant well, delighting those guests so that they'd actually want to come back for more. You had to grow restaurant profits so that the franchisee would earn a proper profit. And if you did those 3 things, people would line up to invest more capital and build more restaurants. Those are the quality restaurants, the growth plan. Just 2 years ago, we added a 5th pillar. We call it creating a culture of servant leaders. That's all about the relationship that we have with our employees, our leaders who create the environments in our restaurants. And I'll tell you more about each one of these pillars this morning. First, when we met the first meeting, when we met at the first meeting, it was easy to agree that top-line sales were the #1 priority. We had 7 years of declining guest counts of our brand in 2007. Our cats were going the wrong direction. We said we've got to come up with the marketing, the innovation, the news, the excitement that would make them want to come back to our restaurants. And we've got to do it with our core business and with new portable on-the-go meals. We started with our roots. The franchisees were helpful in pointing us to the answer, and the answer lies in the great state of Louisiana. That's where our food comes from. If you don't know much about Louisiana, it is truly the melting pot food cuisine of the United States. You could say it was the first fusion food because 7 nations came together from around the globe, put their meats, their veggies, and their rice into a pot with the appropriate spices, and there you go, came Cajun and Creole food. It's the ultimate in innovative, delicious, flavorful food. We took that food and said we've got to freshen our brand. We were Popeyes Chicken and Biscuits, pretty narrow, pretty tired. We took those Louisiana roots and put them into everything about our identity, calling ourselves Popeyes Louisiana Kitchen. It now shows up in all aspects of our brand identity, the signs, the packaging, the advertising, to name just a few. We went back to our roots in our core menu and named our chicken bona fide chicken, the real, authentic thing. We have a zealot relationship with our customers. They drive over 45 to 50 miles to get to our restaurants to enjoy our food. So we needed to remind them of what they love about it. It's made fresh every day. It's seasoned in the restaurants, 12 hours soaking in marination with those fabulous Louisiana seasonings. Just reminding them alone of that has brought them back. But we've also innovated, looking at the portable products, the spicy, flavorful sauces that would make the younger customer come back into our restaurants. The first innovation was Wicked Chicken, something that could only come from New Orleans, followed by Dippin' Chicken and Rippin' Chicken, our latest innovations. Many of them have won awards in the industry for being the most innovative new ways to cut and eat delicious golden crispy chicken. We also went to a place Louisiana calls the Swamp Pantry Floor, seafood. A Gulf Coast company should have seafood in its menu box. Our franchisees helped us decide to go after shrimp, Crawfish Festival, which just finished in our restaurants, and the Cajun filet. And these new products have also been an important part of bringing guests back to our restaurants. But maybe the most important part of the relationship with our guest has been Annie, our spokesperson. Annie is the most genuine, authentic storyteller you're ever going to meet. And she gets people off the couch and into their cars to come to our restaurants. She just tells it like it is. We call her our mad truth teller. Let's take a look at how she gets the point across. Well, if any of you are wondering whether you can still build relationships with customers on the TV set, Annie is living proof. People chase me through the airport when I wear a Popeye shirt, asking me where Annie is, where they can meet her. Is she working the shift tonight at the restaurant? Can they talk to her? And is there a possibility of a personal meeting? Annie is the most genuine, authentic spokesperson on television, even beats out Verizon Boy. She does a fabulous job of inviting our guests to the restaurants, and every time we put her on television, our sales go up 10%. Powerful relationship building. So here's what it did for sales. The combination of innovation, broad media, a relationship spokesperson has driven our sales growth dramatically over the last 5 years. For the first half of this year, our same-store sales, that's the comparable sales for our restaurants, are up 7.5%, more than double the industry average. We're outperforming the category by a wide margin. The orange line at the top is Popeyes. Year to date, we're up 8.4% in the US, and that compares to the quick service burger chains at 4.9 and the chicken QSR chains below that. So for a long time, we've been outperforming our competitors with the results of our strong, innovative brand building plans. It looks like this in market share. I used the coin because we're in Las Vegas. But the coins are stacking up nicely. Our market share has grown every year since we began these new brand building plans. That brings us to the second pillar of the plan, which is all about running a great restaurant. With our franchisees, we made a focus on running a better restaurant than you'd experienced before. If you are a Popeyes fan, we're grateful for your love of our food. But if you're honest with me, you'd tell me we're just too darn slow. So we decided to tackle our operations and improve our guest service experience so that you'd be more comfortable and trust us more for a consistently quick, fast experience. In our business, there's 3 things that really drive the value proposition: certainly the food, the service experience, and the environment in which you eat the food. If all 3 of those things are strong, we call them long legs on the stool, you will have a strong value proposition. For Popeyes, our strongest leg has always been the food, and now we're building the experience and the environment to match. We started with speed of service, and to figure that out, we had to ask you, the guest, what you need from us. We implemented an IVR response tool we call Guest Satisfaction or Guest Experience Monitor, GEM for short, and we ask guests every day to call in and let us know how their experience was. That data goes straight back to the restaurant manager who can do something about it. And without a single training program or manual mailed to our restaurants, we have dramatically improved the service that you experience. Our overall delighted score, that's the percentage of people giving us 5 out of 5 points, is now up to 77%. When we started, it was 53%. Our intent to return, the measure of loyalty, is up to 78%, saying 5 out of 5. And that's been driven by a dramatic improvement in our speed of service, as you can see from the green bar on the right, where today over 75% of our restaurants consistently get you your food in 180 seconds or less. We then shifted to the experience. We want all of our restaurants to look like this one. We want you to be drawn in to a New Orleans festive, colorful environment to enjoy this delicious food. So now we're in the process of that transformation. Here's just a few pictures to bring it to life for you. Nothing does it like a real visit to the restaurant. But this picture shows you the Louisiana wrought iron ring that we created over the center of the dining room to bring a taste of New Orleans into the restaurant. We've used quality materials, woods. We've used colors and mosaic tile, spice jars on the counter to remind you of the amazing flavor in our food, and really brought the restaurant to a contemporary, bright presentation. New lighting, new seating, new colors on the wall. At the front counter, we used a colorful mosaic tile, and our beverage station, our Flavoriety beverage station, which carries 8 flavors, 6 of which none of our competitors carry, like strawberry and orange, really bring a lot of color and excitement into the environment. This year, we'll have 500 of our restaurants redone by the end of the year and another 600 done next year. So our system will look like this in 2/3 of the country by the end of next year. So after thinking about what would make the experience better for you, I will tell you the most important thing we've partnered on with our franchisee partners has been profitability of our restaurants. Now, that may not sound very sexy, but it is the lifeblood of any business model, and it's certainly true of a restaurant. 5 years ago, we didn't even track the data on whether a restaurant was making money or not, and we never discussed with our franchise partners how we could make more money in the way we made our decisions. That has changed dramatically. Our franchisees, we have 340 of them in the US and around the world, are real people trying to make a real living with Popeyes as the source of their income. When we started this process 5 years ago, their profits were sinking, they were under pressure from commodities, they didn't have good control systems in the restaurants, and they just plain weren't keeping good track of the money, and neither were we. Together, we've worked out a system that's worked extremely well. We now track the P&Ls out of every restaurant and benchmark and compare every quarter how the restaurants are performing one to the other. This has pointed out a lot of profit-making opportunities, best practices that we can share with one another. It's become so important we've started collecting the key data every week, food and paper, labor, and speed of service, so that our decisions can be made on a more timely basis. We've also chased supply chain savings and in-restaurant cost savings. The supply chain savings saved $36 million over 2.5 years, which is 2 margin points for a business owner. And now today, our franchisees are matching that within restaurant controls that deliver another 2 margin points. So it may not surprise you that when I show you the profitability of each restaurant on average is improving nicely each year, from $180,000 when we started this process to over $211,000 last year. That goal of hitting a 22% restaurant operating profit, which is 4 points above industry average, well, for the first half of this year, we're at 21% franchisee restaurant operating profit. Our fourth pillar, I like to say it this way: if your brand's strong and sales are cranking, if your guest experience is improving dramatically, and your franchisees are making money, they will line up to invest and build more quality restaurants. We want to be the leading QSR in growing quality quick service restaurants. That's our goal. As I told you, we're in the process of building out the United States. We have 1,600 restaurants in the United States, but not very many in every state. We're in 45 states, and only 6 of them have more than 100 restaurants. So if there's not a Popeyes near you, there is one coming. We plan to more than double the number of Popeyes restaurants in the next several years across the country. Our new openings have gone up every year since our plan began because strong sales and profits make that happen. This year we'll build about 80 restaurants in the United States and another 60 around the globe. The thing that drives the most investment in our franchise is the performance of our new restaurant units. And today our new restaurants open at $1.5 million in sales annually, and that's up 50% over 5 years ago. That means there's a great return on your investment for entering the Popeyes system, and that means our relationships with franchisees are very strong. We have the strongest pipeline of people waiting to enter our system or existing franchisees waiting to build that we've had in the history of the company. In addition to the US, the globe is also our opportunity. Today we have only 400 restaurants around the globe, but they're in 25 countries, so we have a wide footprint. Our opportunity for Popeyes is to dramatically increase our restaurant counts around the world. And we think this brand was born to travel. Chicken is the favorite protein of the globe. Seafood is the second favorite. Rice is the favorite starch of the globe. And we think red beans and rice is the way to answer that. Our bold, spicy flavors play very well, particularly in the middle market growing economies like Turkey, Peru, and others around the world. Our heritage is relevant too. Our leading competitor is not quite as much fun as our brand that comes from New Orleans. We like to say we put on Mardi Gras every day in our restaurants. We found that festival-like brand to play well in countries around the world. So that brings us to the fifth and final pillar of our success. As I told you at the beginning, we weren't too worried about the culture of the company, the leadership of the company when we started this. We were worried about results. We needed to get results quickly to turn around this brand. But the only way a brand has a legacy is if it develops its leaders as a competitive advantage. So 2 years ago, we added our fifth pillar, which is creating a culture of servant leaders to lead our franchise owners and our restaurants. We decided we would write down the characteristics that had made us successful in those first 5 years. And it was all about relationships. It was all about how we work together. Our stated purpose is to inspire servant leaders who achieve superior results. We don't want to be a mediocre company. We want to be the best. But we want to do it in a certain way, a relationship way. These 6 principles codify the things that we believe are essential to a hardworking, high-performing relationship in franchising. The first is be passionate in everything that you do. For goodness sake, if you're excited about the food of Popeyes and want to be an owner in our restaurants, you've got to have zeal for this brand and excitement. We love passion. The second principle, we listen carefully and learn continuously. Robert Greenleaf, the thought leader of servant leadership, said listening skills are the #1 trait of a leader who effectively accomplishes followership. They listen carefully to their most important audiences, and they learn and edit their thinking accordingly. As I've mentioned to you several times, we think fact-based leadership is essential. If you don't have facts, I can guarantee the passion is going to lead to an emotional conflict, not a solution. So the combination that we found most successful is passion and facts in the room to make decisions. Plans help as well. 5 years ago, we didn't have a plan for 30 days from now. Today, we have plans 18 months out, and it builds credibility in the partnership with our franchisees. We're working to become a better company at coaching and developing our leaders. We always invested all our training materials in the food preparation, not the people preparation. That's all about to change. And finally, the 2 values that we think are central to servant leadership. Each of us being personally accountable, doing our piece of the puzzle, delivering on what we promise. And then we say we value humility, because as soon as you say, I am humble, you've just screwed up. Behind those principles, we started a strategic process of creating a workplace that lives up to those principles and provides the kind of development that we think will create a legacy of leaders. We want our company to be an employer of choice in our industry. We're developing a curriculum for servant leadership. It's led by the John Maxwell book called The 5 Levels of Leadership. It explains how you move from receiving a position to the pinnacle of performance as a leader. We're working on delivering better on our promise to our team members so that we can have a highly engaged workforce. And as a result of that, we hope to be offering you a real competitive advantage in service in our guest experience. Now for the finance people or the number crunchers in the room, there are always suspicious people when I talk about servant leadership. Does it actually deliver results? Well, there's a whole bunch of academic research that suggests that servant leader-led companies deliver 24% higher returns to their shareholders than this S&P. We'd like to be one of those companies. In our case, it's delivered consistent earnings per share growth for 5 years. This year, our earnings per share will be up 18 to 20%. And if you had been so smart as to buy this stock, it would be up 440% today from 4 years ago. The last year alone, our stock has increased over 90% in value. But all that was by focusing on the franchisees as our partner, not the stock price. So how can you replicate these results in your business? First, figure out who that most important customer is for you and build an authentic, genuine, candid relationship with them. Communicate that relationship to your guest, your end customer as well. Let them share in the authenticity and the genuineness of how you work. Deliver results to your customer. There's nothing like results to create a successful relationship. and then develop a cadre of leaders who will sustain that performance for many years to come. You've been a great audience today, and I thank you for your attention. I want to encourage all of you to come visit us at our restaurants as soon as possible, because as Rick proved, you can eat at Popeyes on a regular basis and enjoy a fit, trim figure like his. Thank you. Have a great day and a great conference.
So we might have time for a question.
Yes,
if anyone has one, happy to take one. Can't see anybody raising their hand or not. Do we have a... we have one right here in the front. Hang on, we got a mic coming.
Hi, Cheryl. I'm Allison from Visa and also Louisiana native. So,
Yay.
So what has Popeyes done to think about direct customer marketing?
So the question is, what has Popeyes done about direct customer marketing? I actually, when the team asked me to speak here, I told them first out, I said, we've done absolutely nothing with direct-to-the-consumer marketing. The reason is we don't have a database yet. We don't have access to your phone numbers and your house address to directly connect with you. Where we have had a lot of successes in social digital world. We have a cult following. They like to talk to us. So we are often in the top 10 of Twitter brands. We have a very active Facebook site. And we have a real active dialogue through those social medium with our guests. When we open a new restaurant in Dubai, the guest comes back and says, why not Dubuque, Iowa? I want one too. When we have a customer complaint in social media, our customers represent the brand and say, oh, come on, give them another chance. The food is just that good. So social digital has been more powerful for us than direct.
Okay, I think we are just about on time, right? So I think we got one more back here. Let's see if we can get this gentleman in, and then we'll wrap up.
I'm Jason Smiley, Vice President of Capriati Sandwich Shop, based out of here, Las Vegas. 5 years ago, you didn't evaluate any of your franchisees' P&Ls. How did you go from not looking at any of them to gaining the trust of your franchisees and encourage them to share them with you and evaluate them with you?
Yeah, so the question is, why didn't we collect the data? And once we decided to, how did we go about that? In franchising, you typically have contractual rights to collect information like that, but we'd never ask. And to your point, franchisees were not feeling real comfortable with us at the outset, right? We were the 7th management team in their history, so not real comfortable sharing data. So we started with those early adopters who would share. We had about 300 of them share financial data with us, and we started to evaluate each promotion event based on their data and show the power of it, and then everybody wanted to participate. Today we have almost all of our restaurants sharing. Thank you.
Great. Thanks a lot, Cheryl.
Pleasure.